This is where the fun begins.
Oh, hello. I clicked the wrong button. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Talking EU. And I am happy to say that I have Tommy, our guinea pig extraordinaire, here with us talking EU in the hot seat today. And also Stig co-hosting with me today. Thank you so much. It's been such a busy day for me that I'm glad Stig was like, hey, I can help you out today. So thank you so much for coming in, Stig. So
yeah, I need to stay awake until tomorrow's stream.
Oh, that's
yeah, it was selfish reasons behind it.
I made you
Kenobi, so we meet again.
We do indeed, Mr. Guinea Pig General.
I like raised you up on a pedestal, and you're like, no, this is all for selfish reasons.
Yeah. I was like, Alora's probably gonna yap for 2 hours, so that'll keep me awake.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then you can help with the yap, and it's going to be an hour and a half because I have to turn over my computer to my kiddo.
I'm gonna talk slowly just to prolong the whole thing,
and then I'll just kick you out, and that's fine. All right. So thank you everyone who's hopping on, and hello to GB Lukey. And I did an interview with him not too long ago as well. And this guy here as well has some wonderful knowledge with Star Wars. I highly recommend him to have conversation with if you have anything you need to discuss or have questions about as well. He was a delight to have. So thank you for jumping in here. And so, hi, Tommy. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. I mean, things could always be better, but you know what? They could always be worse.
Yes, exactly. The thing that, like how people say, always have something thankful to, or something to be thankful for. And I think the very first thing that we should be thankful for is waking up to a new day.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, so many people that I've known have not had that opportunity recently.
Right.
Too, so.
Right. Exactly. And we were discussing a little bit about that before we came live here. So, kind of goes with what we were talking in the chat. And Stig, how are you doing today?
Doing quite well. Just finished watching The Witcher season 2.
Okay, I'll have to
binge the whole damn thing today.
Wow.
Yeah.
To stay awake.
Yeah. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10.
Okay.
But sticking to the books seemed to have been way too difficult for them this time, and I'm worried about season 3 because changes will have ripple effects, right?
Yeah.
But overall, it was certainly a good season, from an entertaining point of view.
Okay. I'll pick your brain later on about that one. And so we have Soul Assassin here. He says, why good swindler Tommy have a lot of nerve showing up after what you pulled? And he's laughing. So what is that about?
That's the Lando Calrissian quote. Why
that's right.
swindler Tommy?
A
lot of nerve showing up after what you pulled.
Yeah, come on, Alora, you should know that one.
I've been up early this morning, then I taught yoga, so I'm kind of drowsy a little bit. But yeah, there you go. Boom, there you go. So I felt
he's trying to trip me up with movie quotes. That ain't going to happen.
Right, there we go. And then Miss Martin uses with her handshake, hello, or hand wave, and her signature rose. How are you doing, lovely? And I have a little announcement here that I'll show. And so with any member that comes during live stream and attends in the chat and stuff like that will have their name entered to win a announcement for my channel, O.G.Starwars. Channel members have a chance to win a copy of Son of Kifu starting now in November through January just by coming on and supporting live streams. Your name will be entered to win a copy of this wonderful painting. So I encourage you, channel members, to come and support, as this is a way of giving back to you. If you are not a channel member, then what are you waiting for? Our last channel member,
Miss Martin Muses is the one who won Mistress of Rat Attack. Congratulations. And I shall chat with you guys later. See you in the live streams. Have a good day.
All right. Yes. So I'm all excited about my little painting campaign for channel members and stuff. And those people who are channel members, if you do not win, you can still get 10% off any purchase of my paintings as well. So there you go. All right. So let's get into this. So Tommy, what got you into Star Wars?
Well, a lot of people talk about when they first went to see the movies in 1977. Unfortunately for me, where we were located in New Jersey, we did not have Star Wars actually play in any of our local theaters. So we had to wait until 78 when it was re-released to all the theaters and a more widespread. That's when we were able to go out to a local theater and see it. So the first time I seen it was in 1978 when it was re-released in the theaters, and I enjoyed it so much. My father was heavily already into, science fiction type shows. So a science fantasy show played right into the same type of things that he liked as well. Because I grew up watching some of the old Star Trek shows, the originals that were being replayed on the local stations and everything. So I was already into that. Battlestar Galactica, of course, came later on. I was into that, but he took me to see Star Wars, and I enjoyed it so much. And then he wound up taking me back something like 8 or 9 more times.
Wow.
And then, of course, it went on. He started picking me up some of the merchandise. Like one of the earliest things that Kenner did before they even made the figures, because we all know that they were late making the figures. So with some of the first things that they did is they were doing what's called label swapping with toys and other items. So one of the first things he got me was this giant toothbrush. It was a big giant toothbrush about the size of like a flashlight that took like the C batteries.
Yeah.
And it had just like a little plastic toothbrush end that you would put on the top, and it was an electric toothbrush. But what they did is they label swapped the original paper that was inside the tubing out with a Star Wars one. It was kind of goofy looking. They tried to play it off like it was a lightsaber, and
I was going to say, I think I had that because I was going to ask you, was it a lightsaber one? Because
it was supposed to be a lightsaber. Yep.
So it's like a plaque attack of the clones.
Yes, big time. I actually found it over my father's house too. Like he still had it. This guy kept everything of mine from back then. But when they came out with the toys and everything, of course, my dad did the mail away because you bought the early bird certificate in the stores, and then you sent that in, and then once they made the toys and everything, they send you out. So I have the original base with the cardboard backing that came with the original figures. Unfortunately, I don't have all the original figures. It appears that they were either sold or lost.
Oh, yeah. I can sympathize with that. Yeah. Wow. All right. So yeah, that's amazing. Like people are like saying, I had that and I had that, people can relate to that lightsaber. I'm like, that's the first thing that popped in my head is that's that toothbrush lightsaber one. That's it. And then so Soul Assassin says, Tommy, I went to a bar on Tatooine and he left me with the bill. Seriously, that guinea pig can drink a lot of Corellian ale. Oh, he's telling on you.
Always good to see you, Soul Assassin. It's good to see Shane Nolan as well.
Yes, exactly. And then Shane's like, I had one of them. Yes, that's crazy. That's amazing. And so as we could tell, your family, your father was the one that really got you into Star Wars. And as always, it happened like when the OT came out and even with the PT, people went back countless times to watch them after the first viewing. And, that happened with us, with my family. My family was basically either Star Trek or Star Wars. I went on the Star Wars side while some of my family stayed on the Star Trek side. And, so I know I'm very casual with Star Trek because it was still in my life, but not as much as Star Wars was.
Well, do you remember when there was a big giant rift between the Star Wars and Star Trek fans? Like you weren't supposed to cross pollinate between the two franchises at one time.
And they were
they actually referenced that in the Fanboys movie. The guys who are supposed to break into George Lucas's house and steal episode 1.
Yeah.
Is one of them sick?
Uh-huh.
They have a few scenes where they have run-ins with the Star Trek fans.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So it was a fun time back then, like a lot of fun stuff. So what was your favorite Star Wars movie, like overall out of all of them?
But well, here's one thing, and I've always talked about this over and over again. Every time I talk about old movies and everything, one of the things I love is I love beginnings. So the original Star Wars actually held the number one spot as far as I was concerned, because there was something about the introduction to all the characters and the way that movie was made. And George Lucas actually created that movie to be a standalone tale originally, so it had a definitive beginning and end to it. And also one of the other things, and I did find it in my dad's stuff, is he had the Super 8 reel-to-reels projectors, and he had the second half of Star Wars on Super 8 reel-to-reel, and he used to always play that for me. So that was just another thing through my childhood I always had too, like beyond the movie, because back then, I mean, they didn't even have VHS right away, not available to the public. So I got to see it all the time on Super 8 because my dad would set up the Super 8 reel-to-reel projector and play the last half of Star Wars for me all the time. And yeah, it was Star Wars, not A New Hope, because it originally didn't have that in the title.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, wow. And then you're like bringing out the projector. I was like, oh my God, you hardly hear that anymore these days. Like, oh, we bringing out the movie projector and we're going to go ahead and watch that, and wow, that's amazing. Like drive-in theaters, that's something that
I love drive-in theaters. So much fun being able to go there and see some of those films. Like even the older films, like maybe, before your time, they would play like all those different films. Like that was the first time I'd ever seen, what was it? Was it the hearse or the car? I forget what the first one was. It was before they did the Christine. They had one called, I think it was called the hearse.
I vaguely remember. I just remember Christine because that was the one that was the most impactful one, or the most memorable one, I guess you can say.
Since you like beginnings, did you like the first Lord of the Rings the best too?
I have a funny hate relationship with the Lord of the Rings movies. I do not like the live action ones. I recently just tried to watch them again, and I literally got bored out of my mind watching them. I like the original. I like the original cartoon versions because that's what I grew up with. I grew up with the cartoon versions. It's the same thing with the Hobbit. I don't mind the live action Hobbit, but I still prefer the original cartoon version by Rankin Bass.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then that answers my question about your favorite OT movie, since you said you like beginnings, right? So it would be basically Star Wars, now A New Hope. So your favorite PT movie? We'll go there, PT, because this is George Lucas era of Star Wars that we're discussing here.
I would love to say it was a Phantom Menace, but it was not. And you would think, beginning off a series like that would be the Phantom Menace. Then there was a lot of characters in the Phantom Menace that I loved. I love Qui-Gon Jinn. I wish his story would have continued past that first movie. I wish it would have. I would have loved to have seen Darth Maul continue too, because I really enjoyed that character. Like he was one of my favorite Siths that I'd seen in the movies up to that point. I mean, I loved Darth Vader when he first came out too, obviously, but there was something about that character. It was so cool. He was so almost devilish in his design. But as far as prequels, it definitely has to be Revenge of the Sith, because I really do feel that they kind of like really paid attention to what the first movie had, and they kind of really led into it heavily towards the end of that movie. Whereas there are a few things in that movie that probably could have did without. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff in the prequels they could have did without. But I think that was the best out of the prequel movies.
There is a little kind of like a plot mistake in Revenge of the Sith.
Okay, so do share then.
Oh yeah, when Kenobi and Yoda sees the footage of the younglings being killed and all, and Kenobi says, "Send me to kill the Emperor," right? But then Yoda says he's going to do it. then later on, Palpatine pronounces that he's the Emperor. So there's no way Kenobi should have called him the Emperor because it hadn't happened yet.
I'll have to go back and watch that.
Yep. Probably an editing thing. They
Yeah.
put the scenes in the wrong order, kind of, maybe. But yeah, he calls him Emperor before Palpatine even calls himself an Emperor.
Okay.
Yeah, because that was when he was in the Senate Hall.
Yeah, because the
Mhm.
Senate Hall thing happens afterwards.
Mhm.
Yeah. You can always say, "Oh, it was the Force. He was sensing," but that's bullshit too, because there has to be a reason, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, what was your favorite scene in Revenge of the Sith? And then tell me what your favorite scene was in A New Hope.
Probably my favorite scene in A New Hope was probably just the stuff with the Falcon originally, like when they were fighting the TIE fighters at the end, at the end after they escaped the Death Star. I would say that was one of my favorite scenes. It's not to take away from any other scenes in the movies, but I really enjoyed what they were doing there. There was a bit of camaraderie going on. There was action going on. And it was a bit of peril too, obviously, because they're trying to escape. I really enjoyed the ship scenes in there, and it kind of harkens back to some of the stuff that you didn't see quite as much in the original Star Trek series that I was watching before that. You didn't see a whole lot of like engaged ship battles in that.
Yeah.
So seeing that for the first time, the ship battles, I really enjoyed that more so even than the Death Star trench run.
Oh, interesting, because usually people are like, the Death Star trench run, that was amazing, or whatever, was, their favorite scene is like, battle scene or whatever for A New Hope. So that's interesting. The Falcon has always been, a fan favorite because of how iconic it is and stuff. Just straying off the path from the movies right here. Have you read the Millennium Falcon novel yet?
I did not read the whole novel. I do have like one of the earliest examples of the EU before we get back to my favorite scene in the prequel.
Yeah.
Is my dad had picked me up the Han Solo trilogy, the original first series.
Oh, Brian Daly?
Yes.
Awesome.
And I had that, and that had some stories in there pertaining to the Falcon. And I remember one of the other books I have has like a small snippet of the Falcon novel in the back, but I never had a chance to pick that one up. At least that I recall. Yeah,
I'd say if you have a chance to get it because it's fun. It gives you the history of the Falcon, who owned it previously, and all this other stuff. And I thought it was really fun. I really, really did. There's always going to be parts that are going to be slow or like, hey, wait a minute here in novels, no matter how good they are. But I really enjoyed it. And I think since you like the Millennium Falcon and the scenes from A New Hope or Star Wars, I think you might enjoy that. Were you going to say something, Stig?
Yeah, it's the Millennium Falcon book. It's easy to find in hardcover on eBay for almost nothing. It's one of the cheaper ones. Yeah. And then Nexus Prime says Bale probably told him via comlink, but it was never alluded to. And so if it's not, then you could safely say it didn't happen. But no, because they were in the temple. There wasn't any time because they start talking about how they're going to kill the Emperor right after they see the footage.
Yeah.
And then after that, Palpatine announces that he's an emperor in front of Bale and all. So that it doesn't line up. Yeah, that happens. Okay, Tommy. So what is your favorite scene in Revenge of the Sith?
Now you probably think that I would probably say one of the lightsaber fights, which don't get me wrong, I enjoyed most of them, even though like the one with Anakin and Obi-Wan was a little bit hokey with all the twirling and everything, because it's kind of pointless if you're fighting somebody with a saber to just do all that fancy stuff. But I would actually say the most interesting part, the part that I like the most, is when he gets into talking about the tale of Darth Plagueis the Wise. There was just something so interesting about that, because up until that point, you really didn't hear a lot about the lore of the Sith. And this is really the first time you're hearing it in a movie. And I was fascinated by like that. I wanted to hear more of it.
Yeah.
The Plagueis novel got written shortly after.
I know.
And George Lucas oversaw that one because he wanted that one to be done right. So that one has Lucas all over it.
Yeah.
And that was one of the first books out of all the Star Wars that I refused to pick up in a regular paperback, that I had to get the hardcover version of that. I was accepting nothing else but the hardcover version of that.
There you go. There you go.
Smart move, because that one's expensive.
Right.
People are charging an arm and a leg for the hardcover.
And Miss Martin Muses agrees with you. Yes, the upper scene, and it gives me chills. It does, because just imagine, like knowing what George did to help develop the Sith within the EU. A lot of people who helped develop the Sith lore in Star Wars did have a lot of feedback from George, and so what we see with the Sith in the lore pre-Disney is basically a collaboration between what George wanted and the EU writers did.
Yeah, especially with the rule of two and stuff. Because Terry Brooks was having meetings with George Lucas, and he wanted him to flesh out the rule of two.
Yeah,
and it's because George Lucas couldn't fit it in the movie,
right?
Because if you put all that in, you'd add 30 minutes, So he had to cut corners for the movie.
Yeah.
But Terry Brooks was the one who came up with the name Darth Bane. Because George Lucas, he asked George Lucas, well, who came up with the rule of two to begin with? Well, what's his name? And George Lucas said he didn't know. And Terry Brooks suggested, what about Darth Bane? Because the Bane of the Jedi, right? Foreshadowing. And Lucas liked it and said, yeah, go with that.
And the funny thing is he wound up not really becoming so much the Bane of the Jedi, but he became the Bane of the Sith at that time.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which again ties into Dark Forces and the Kal Katarn story.
Yes. And with that, like your favorite scene being the opera and stuff, what did you think about like Anakin's expression and how he was like really getting involved with what Palpatine had to say? What do you think about that manipulation that Palpatine was doing towards Anakin?
I think that played in very well. Well, it makes more sense actually to understand that those scenes where what he was doing to Anakin when you read the Darth Plagueis novel, because it explains that's part of Palpatine's ability, that he's able to manipulate people's thoughts and minds. So, I mean, it obviously plays right into that aspect of what he was doing through the Force. And I think that's what he was doing. He was putting these little things in there, and he was nudging his mind in that direction. I mean, you could see it slowly throughout the film. I mean, you see Anakin technically falling to the dark side from the first film on, if you're really paying attention to all the little subtle signs. So I think that was just a culmination that he's just pushing them in that direction.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that, Palpatine, he was brilliant with how he orchestrated both sides of the war with both of his quote unquote personalities, Sith and Palpatine, or Sidious and Palpatine. And then, just to have Anakin under his wing and cloud the Jedi's mind so he can further manipulate everyone. That guy had power. He had
tremendous power. Absolutely. I mean,
exactly.
I mean, some of the things that are not really talked about, obviously they can't talk about all the stuff that he was going to put in the novel later on, but a lot of the stuff that kind of like is left open-ended, even in the Phantom Menace, makes so much more sense in the Plagueis novel, like all the stuff that he did behind the scenes, how he destroyed his whole family on that cruiser.
Yeah.
Like there was no means to an end that he was not willing to cross to further his objective.
Exactly. It's like he didn't even spare his family. That means he's a force to reckon with, right? Because when the people, he wasn't, if you know his Palpatine story, he had a rough time with his father and all this other stuff, but to not even spare your own family any kind of dignity and at least to have them serve under you and whatever, but to get rid of the basically open airlock, that guy was ruthless. He was.
Did you ever read Darth Maul Shadowhunter?
Yes.
That one, and what is it? Cloak of Deception?
Yeah, Cloak of Deception. There was
basically
also a short story. The one novel I have the trade paperback of Shadowhunter. At the very end of there's also another short Darth Maul story that was originally only available, I think, online or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have that in the back of my novel.
Yeah, it's all those 3 books. If you read them, The Phantom Menace is way better. You know, if you, they just enhance the whole crap. You know, even the Trade Federation stuff and all that gets really fleshed out. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah. All right, so let's switch a little bit gears here. Let's get into some merch talk a little bit. So we know that your father helped you collect merch and stuff. So what was your favorite item you've ever owned?
Oh, my
That's
favorite.
Gonna be tough.
Yes, I mean, I can't because I've had so many of them over the years. I mean, obviously some of them were sold, some of them were just lost. That's such a tough one. I would say probably my favorite is I had, and I forget what size scale this was, but it was the Diecast Millennium Falcon.
Oh,
that had like the little landing gear that came down and had the movable turret on top and the movable dish. I would say that was probably one of my favorites. Between that and the Star Destroyer that actually had the Tanta 4 that came out of the hangar sliding door.
Oh, look at that! Wow. Yeah, that's hard. So, like, okay, estimate how big was your collection then? Like, what would you say? Were you an avid collector where you had like maybe one wall full of merch?
Back then I probably had a lot more than that. I mean, I still have I probably still have about a wall worth of merch right now. I actually retrieved some of my old stuff from my father's house. They had these vans that had like a ripcord in the middle of the van. Then you pulled the ripcord out and the vans would race across the floor. I have both of those. One was Darth Vader and it was all black, and the other one was white and had Luke and Leia and Han and all them on it. I had both of those vans. I have all of my figures from Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and most of the ones, I think I still have most, if not all the ones from Revenge of the Sith as well. I also still have some of the Power of the Force figures.
Oh, okay.
And I think I only have 2 or 3 of my original figures left. I have like my original, or I do have my original early bird Han Solo, but his head was broken off when I was a kid. And I have the medical droid, the one medical droid that was, oh God, I'm trying to remember. No, I can't remember what his name is. He's the one that had like the long tool that sat in his hand. I'm trying to remember who he is.
He's in the novels too.
Yeah.
It's not the one with the multiple arms. It's the one that just had the 2 arms. He's like a regular bipedal droid, medical droid.
Yeah, the one you see in that's fixing Luke's hand, I think.
Yes, exact same one. Yes, I still have that.
Is there one piece that you never got, or one collectible that you wish you would have got? And what is it like? Or because we always have that one where your parents are like, you really don't need that, you have enough figures, or maybe it's one that's really costly because it's a huge collectible. So what piece that you wish you would have purchased or have today?
Well, the one I still do have is I still have the original Star Wars Stormtrooper rifle. Ooh. I have that. I don't know how good of shape it is because unfortunately my dad did pile things in that house. But I always wanted Han Solo's blaster, his heavy blaster. That was the one I always wanted because that was available back in the day along with the Stormtrooper rifle.
Just imagine if it was today. I don't think that they would have that out today. I don't think they have a lot of stuff like that because of what's going on today's climate and stuff like that.
Well, when they did the prequels, they did re-release some of the Stormtrooper guns, in that same vein, and I think they did do a re-release of the heavy blaster, but it seemed cheap compared to the original ones.
Yeah, usually the original ones they have more care to them, and then when they start mass producing them, I've noticed that sometimes they lose integrity. Like you can compare some of the dark or the Black Series pieces, and as they start printing more or making more and more producing, you can notice the quality of like how the face looks and how the painting the eyes are and stuff like that. It seems like quality goes down once mass production starts.
I had the dumbest thing that I always wanted back in the day.
Okay.
It was a figure called Walrus Man.
Mm-hmm.
It's the guy Kenobi kills at the bar.
Yeah, Ponda Baba.
Yeah,
but back then it was called Walrus Man.
Yep.
Yeah, that one.
Right. I forgot all about that.
No clue why I wanted him, but I was obsessed about that character.
And the color scheme that they had on that original figure made no sense because his chest was orange, his pants were like blue or something, and he had some kind of like green sleeves or something. Like it literally made no sense as compared to the movie.
Probably someone who was color and sorry, Stig. I know you're colorblind, so but probably someone who was hired to paint was kind of colorblind and just went for it, and they just handed him colors or whatever. Sorry.
The one toy though that I wish I still had was Yak Face.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Stupid background character from Return of the Jedi.
But they're always fun.
I had that one when I was a kid, and I don't know, for some reason it was my favorite, or ended up being my favorite, which is so stupid. I mean, it's like nothing about him. He wasn't even in the comics as far as I can remember.
Yeah. So Tommy, what is your favorite, or if you have any Black Series figures, who is your favorite one you have?
I've never picked up the Black Series.
Okay.
It was by then that I had already had enough of Disney. Yeah. So when they were doing the Black Series, even though some of them look really good, because I've seen some ones that I've been like amazed at how well they look. I can't give money to Disney consciously. I can't do it.
Wow. So you're one of the few that I know that are like, I'm totally done. I'm not giving money. And if I need to, I will buy secondhand, used, or whatever collectible places.
Oh, yeah.
Can get some good Black Series cheap from China. I actually got the Vader one earlier this year, and it was not fake. And it was $12. So it's on my shelf now, next to Kenobi and Jaina Solo.
Yeah.
Hey,
all right. Yes.
Oh, all and Shane Nolan, real quick. The pistol always reminds me of a Mauser German army pistol. That's actually what it was modeled after. Because one thing a lot of people don't realize is that every gun that was in the original Star Wars movie, it was actually modeled after real weapons. Yeah. Even the stormtrooper, even the stormtrooper's rifle, it was modified.
Yeah.
And the Mauser broom handle pistol was for the most part used by pilots.
Yeah.
During World War I, I believe. So it fits with Han Solo, the pilot, right?
Absolutely.
It's amazing how these little details were given, like George and his creators and stuff took inspiration and changed it so it looked different and fit into the galaxy far, far away. I like looking at that and comparing and stuff, because you got to start off somewhere with some kind of inspiration, right, to make a fantasy world. And so I always thought that anyone who makes fantasy, sci-fi fantasy, and has that creative mind and also the writing skills and stuff like that, I'm just amazed by what someone can produce with that. And that feels like it's a common loss right now.
Well, I think that was extremely intelligent by George Lucas to do that, because not only is he making it easier himself on design work, but he's also given everybody that element of, oh, this seems familiar to me when they're watching it and they see those weapons. And they might not even know why at first. Yeah. So I think that added another element into everything that he was doing, because he was able to put something in there. Somebody might just peripherally realize that, hey, that looks so familiar, and it gives them that sense of, oh, this fits right in with things I know, or it makes them a little bit more receptive to what's going on when they see things that look familiar to them.
Yeah, it's not too alien.
It was absolutely deliberate too, because George Lucas went for easily recognizable shapes.
Yeah.
Which, the Mauser broom handle pistol is extremely recognizable. And the shape of the TIE fighters too, when they're coming at you, it looks like an H. Right? And so he did that. The Star Destroyers are triangles.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I think that was in the what's it called, that really long documentary that came with the DVDs, An Empire of Dreams. I think it was on that one. They were talking about the design.
Okay. And then Ancient One says, fake super chat, a colossal sized bag of premium carrots and lettuce for Tommy, the guinea pig, his wife, and the guinea pig pups, so that they can week in complete happiness.
Oh, thank you, Billy.
There we go. And then, so Billy says DL-44 was the Mauser offspring. And then let's see here. What do we have? And then I skipped one, but I like the way the Phantom Menace also used things based on real weapons and ships. So yeah, so we have a lot of like, oh, we can recognize that feels familiar. So it takes you further into the story because it feels familiar, even though it's from a sci-fi type fantasy world and stuff. And then
even the characters were designed to be recognizable because he used the archetypes, right? Everyone in the world can, recognize, the wise old wizard, and the princess and the swashbuckler, what have you.
Yeah.
So it was even in the writing.
I agree. And then so Max relaxes. Moff Gideon could have mentioned that in his speech covering his history of the E-Web blaster. I have no idea where's that going. I'm not familiar with that much of Disney Star Wars. Let's see here, and I already have that one. And so everybody's relating to this WW World War II. WW2 sounds weird to me. I don't know why, but World War II vets and historians hate Star Wars for inspiring the fans to buy Mosers and make them into solo blasters. Really? Are you just yanking my chain, or is that true? Oh my goodness. All right, so let's go ahead and move on here. So what is your favorite EU novel, Tommy, that you've read?
I would definitely say the Plagueis one, because it fills in a lot of gaps, especially in the prequels. So
yeah. Yes. So what was your favorite? I know there's like it kind of expands in history because you have time jumps in the novel. I know that. So what was your very favorite scene in that, or something that you always recall that that gives you like nostalgic chills or whatever?
I would say it's probably towards the beginning of the novel when he decides he's going to turn on his master, Gnome Rugus, otherwise known as Tenebris. Because he was a little bit conflicted on whether or not he should do it. So I mean, it was just kind of interesting to see somebody who was considered a Sith and supposed to be evil actually have second thoughts on it, questioning himself. He wasn't. He was supposed to be the embodiment of all this evil power and everything like that. But even then, he's still kind of questioning what he's doing. Should he do it? And eventually he decides to do it anyway, because he just says, hey, you know what? I cannot further my plans with him still around. He needs to be gone.
Right. And we know the rule of two and all this stuff. And we also know, if you guys have a chance to have read the Plagueis novel and know more of Plagueis and Sidious and Tenebris's history, that Darth Tenebris, he basically didn't train Plagueis conventionally. He would send him off on crazy missions that had nothing to do with his training and stuff. But he liked Plagueis for his manipulation of the midichlorians and stuff. And so I thought that was really interesting how, even back then, we got to see the expansion of Plagueis wanting to control the Force through the midichlorians. So I thought that was really interesting. Have you read any? Go ahead.
I was going to say, I always felt too that when they talk about like, the more modern stuff where they're trying to say that Sidious is the one that created Anakin, I always felt like the way that they were leading in the novel, it made it seem like Plagueis used some of Sidious's power, but he is the one that actually created Anakin. Or if he didn't create it, what he was doing to manipulate the Force caused the Force to create Anakin as supposed to be opposition to him.
Yes, and that's my understanding with it, is it was an opposition to what they were doing with the, and because I remember it's been a little while since I read Plagueis, but I remember like at one point the Force struck back at Plagueis and kind of cut him off from using it, like from his abilities and stuff, because he was manipulating the Force as well. So I thought that was really interesting how they always say the will of the Force, but no one really sees the will of the Force really in causing someone to stop from using the abilities that the Force gives them, I guess you can say, if I'm putting it in right words, wording it right. We know that the Yuuzhan Vong, because of the path they were going down, that they eventually got cut off from the Force as well. So we see that years later with that that species from out of the galaxy or whatever. So I thought that was interesting how they went more into exploring the midichlorians in the Darth Plagueis novel, and then also how people like we have a Sith that's trying to learn how to manipulate it to to rule the galaxy basically, and create an army as well. So that was interesting. So Tommy, have you read any comics?
I used to read a lot of the early Marvel comics back in the day. The last ones that I did read were the ones with Darth Maul and his brother. Press. They were interesting. I can't remember the name of them. I want to say, I can't remember if they were IDW, if they were Dark Horse. I can't remember who did them. I actually got them sitting in my box.
Was Savage, what's his name? Is that his name? Was he pre-Disney or after? Do you remember, Stig?
He was Filoni shit.
I know that.
It was he was pre-Disney.
Oh, okay. I wasn't too sure about that because I just stopped paying attention to a point, at one point.
Those were a bit of a mix match because it used lore from the rest of the EU. And the Clone Wars because of the Night Sisters, right? So it was very it was like it was in between both. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. It was like S canon in the continuity hierarchy.
No,
I would say.
Because they were trying to make the Clone Wars fit. And so it was definitely a Clone Wars spinoff comic.
Yeah.
But actually, it's going to be in the next Clone Wars omnibus that comes out in June, I think.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, those comics are going to be in that one because I saw it the other day when we were talking about it.
And thank you, Soul Assassin. So it's Darth Maul death sentence. So with that, so you probably just read few comics. Do you what did you think about them? And do you have any favorites from what you read?
Well, I liked it. I liked the Darth Maul ones just because the character of Darth Maul, and I wanted to see him continue. I always felt like he should have continued. The Savage Opress character was he was just all right. He was a side character. He was a bit of a flunky. Some of the other ones I enjoyed was the ones where they did an expansion on Jango Fett. Like I think that was called Fett for Hire, or if I remember correctly.
Open Seasons.
Open Seasons.
I think so. Jango Fett Open Seasons.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Yeah, I have a few of those left. Even some of the early Marvel ones were pretty good. I also there was a few of the ones that I picked up that were supposed to be Old Republic. Yeah, and they were kind of like partially based off the game.
Yeah, Yeah,
So
yeah, those take place 10 years, I think, before the video game.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
like 50 of them. Long series. It was damn good.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Awesome.
I do recall another one, and this was actually one that my brother had. I didn't have it because I could never find it in print. But I remember that there was an older comic, and it had Boba Fett facing off against Darth Vader, and Boba Fett had pulled out a lightsaber and was trying to sit there and fight with Vader. I know it was part of an omnibus series, but I just don't remember which one it was.
Yeah, I remember it too. I just can't recall the title of that. Because I've been going through all the Boba Fett stuff right now since the book of Boba Fett has is coming out. And in fact, they also put out a collection and named the collection Blood Ties. And so it's a collection of Boba Fett's story in chronological order in the comics and stuff. So I know what you're talking about. And I think it's in that series and stuff. And
I found it. It's
what is
from
it?
Star Wars Tales.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, and I have that. I think I have that with me here. Yeah, so it was fun with the Boba Fett series and stuff. So just an out of George Lucas era question for you, and then we'll hop back in. So, what do you think about the coming of the book of Boba Fett, Tommy? Since we're on the topic of Boba Fett.
As far as like whatever Disney is doing, I just don't want to have no part of it.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay. Fair
the
enough.
last time that I got a book that got me interested in the lore of the Mandalorians and Boba Fett, and even then that had some of the Filoni stuff in it, which I didn't really care for. Is there was a book? It was a bounty hunter. I want to say it was the Bounty Hunters Guild Guide or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a green book, and it had like the Mandalorian symbol on it and everything like that. But there was a lot of stuff in it that pertained to like Boba Fett, and then like throughout the book, it's talking about the Bounty Hunters Guild and the rules and regulations and all the different factions that were in the Bounty Hunters Guild. And then it's got like little snippet notes from like Boba Fett or Greedo or Han Solo or Hondo, and it was kind of interesting. And then they talk about a lot of the lore of the Mandalorians and where the symbol came from, the sigil that they use to represent the Mandalorians. I really like that book. That came out technically right before the Disney era, because it was already in production before Disney took over. So that was probably like the last book as far as Boba Fett was concerned that I had picked up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he's such an interesting character. Like he became such a fan favorite, even though he got like that scene of him getting his jetpack getting knocked off of him and he falls into the Sarlacc pit and stuff like that. When fans became really liked him, and George realized that, he's like, okay, he survived, and so we got a chance because George listened to the fans with a character that was only supposed to be there for a secondary and a purpose only, and then killed off, right? And then realizing that the fans loved him, he allowed then for the EU portion of the lore to expand on his character. And going with the Disney's new series, a new take on Boba versus what we know already, and that came out under George's tutelage, I guess you can say, is that they want to give everybody back that nostalgia of Boba Fett, and so they put out this Blood Ties collection through Marvel's of all his post Disney character arcs and stories and stuff, and just in lieu of the book of Boba Fett. And then so people are going to pick that up, and then they're going to watch that, and they're going to realize, wait a minute, these are two completely different people.
Absolutely.
So I don't get that logic. I don't, because Boba Fett, he was the reason, he was like the model of how the Mandalorians were created, like the armor and all of that. And now that's probably not existence anymore. I don't know, but I get it. You don't, and I respect that you're true to your word on, like, I don't want nothing to do with that lore anymore, like Disney lore for Star Wars. And I respect that.
They burned a lot of bridges along the way.
Yeah.
I've actually, I actually had Disney try to come at me on my channel because I was doing talks about Star Wars movies, and of course, I did heavy editing on everything, and even then, they still tried to come after me, and that just kind of furthered my hatred of them. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I can't tolerate them, and I know some people want to give them the benefit of the doubt, and then want to hope that maybe Disney's going to do something better. I don't have that hope. I see where Disney has always gone in the past. Disney has always taken original projects and they've destroyed them and twisted it to their vision. They've always done that. It's nothing new. I mean, they've even done it as far back as you're talking about, like Cinderella. I mean, they took the original story of Cinderella, they twisted and they turned it because the original Cinderella was a much darker tale.
Yeah, I agree.
And what Disney has is almost unrecognizable to the original version. And that's exactly what they're doing with Star Wars. And they're not backing off of it. They're going to keep going forward with it.
Oh no, they're not. They're not going to do nothing. And and so we can go on that whole discussion on that, but this is not what this is about. That's just all right. So I know we could say and put our venom in it and all this other stuff, and and I do welcome that at times because we do need to discuss like what's on our minds and stuff like that. But let's get back into the heart of Star Wars, and that's George Lucas era.
Sometimes you need to pee, right?
Yeah, sometimes you do. Sometimes you need it. Yeah, sometimes you need to release yourself, right?
Yep.
To release it. All right. So, have you played any games? And if you did, what is your favorite Star Wars game?
I really did enjoy the oh God, what was that called? The Knights of the Old Republic I enjoyed, but I also enjoyed the oh God, the one with Star Killer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know
Force
why.
Unleashed.
Force Unleashed 1 and 2. I enjoyed both of those. I played some of the earlier games. I don't recall which ones they were because I had a lot of like Rogue Squadron and everything like that for the original for the GameCube. I also enjoyed the MMORPG. I played that one for years, Knights of the Old Republic, until it just the Old Republic, rather, just Old Republic. I played that one for years and to the point where I don't know if it was something with the design of the game, but every time I got on that game, my character would like freeze frame and it would look like a Gumby and Pokey when I was trying to play it, especially when I got on one of the main starships where the hubs are. Yeah, it just got really bad. But that was an incredibly enjoyable game, and all the little details and the little additions that they had in there for the back history for some of the planets and for some of the species in there. I thought that was incredibly well done. It was just a shame that game kind of just went downhill under BioWare. I don't know what happened with BioWare under EA, but it just started going to hell.
I know what happened. The writers that were writing the great games like Knights of the Old Republic, Baldur's Gate, Dragon Age 1, Mass Effect, they quit.
Wow.
They one by one, all the very talented writers quit.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah. That's why BioWare was a company that was known for its tremendous writing. The stories and the characters, what have you, fantastic. After the main talent left, you get games that haven't really taken off, like Mass Effect Andromeda. That one kind of flopped. And I think there was one called. I can't remember what it was called. It was you play a bunch of guys that has mech suits.
Yeah. And then the Dark Forces and Kyle Katarn is like one of the legendary EU characters. And so what do you think about Kyle Katarn? Like when you first got to know him through the games and stuff, Tommy?
I'm trying to remember which one was Kyle Katarn.
Kyle Katarn was a part of like the Dark Forces, the Jedi Knight series.
Oh, okay.
The guy who sold the Death Star plans.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I really wasn't sure what to take of him, tell you the truth.
Okay.
It was one of the characters I was not really interested in. Like when I was playing the games, I was interested in a lot more of the other characters, like especially like the early Knights of the Old Republic, obviously Revan and Malik. the Rataka species.
Mm-hmm.
I was interested in stuff like that. Like some of the people that were like, okay, well, this person did stuff with the plans or everything like that. I just wasn't into that.
Okay, fair enough. Awesome. So, all right. So, who was your favorite EU character or favorite character overall, and why in Star Wars? I think we already might know this, but still, go ahead.
I mean, I would still say, like, as far as like the EU in general, I would still say it's Plagueis. He was just the most interesting character.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other characters of note that are right up there. Like Bane was an extremely interesting character. Even like what they did with Revan, even though Revan didn't get as much time in the EU novels as a lot of the other characters, what little bit of time he did get made him seem like a very interesting character. I always wish that they would have delved more into Vitiate though. Because Vitiate seems like an extremely interesting character just from everything that you wound up getting through the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They were probably going to do more with them, but everything got canceled, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You know, there's a lot of characters that were put on the back burner and then basically their stories canceled because of the buyout. And that goes with like Jaina Solo and, you know, Darth Tana. Zana, and all of them. And so we can only now think of what ifs. And, you know, so it's kind of heartbreaking to know, you know, to have those what ifs and not being able to see the conclusion, you know, of what happened next or whatever. And Mary Mayhem, thank you for stopping by. And she's one of the channel members as well. And so your name will be entered for the drawing for a chance to win a copy of my painting. And she says, Kyle Katarn was awesome. He defected to the rebels and was a complete badass. Yes.
Yeah, he was like the Chuck Norris of Star Wars for a while.
Yeah.
Hey, Mary.
Yeah. And then so from there, I'm going to have a quiz for you. How old was Higo or Plagueis when he realized he could manipulate the Force? If you can remember that, recall that.
Oh God, wasn't he like 16?
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
I don't remember then.
It was his 5th birthday.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and he would use that to like manipulate his friends' minds a little bit when they would play.
Make them eat dog shit and stuff like that.
I don't know, but Stig, yeah, use your imagination, Stig.
I am.
He's like,
your imagination doesn't mean out loud.
My bad.
You
I
like
thought we were speaking freely.
Oh shit! Just imagine if you had that power, Stig, and we were playing our Conan D&D games, and you're like manipulating us to do certain things.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Yes, and then 5 or 6. Yep. There you go. Yeah, I should have gave that question to Abu Nas because I had him on Talking EU for an interview too, and he chose Plagueis as well. And yeah, so that was interesting. That was a nice conversation with him as well.
I did force manipulation on Nina. Yeah, I said if she doesn't give me a wrench on her channel, I'm gonna kill her cat in the D&D game.
Oh,
so she just sat there with her hand over her mouth for a while, and then all of a sudden I had a wrench. I've never used a wrench though. I just figured I'd try.
You really manipulated her, Stig. You are like, he went to the dark side.
Yeah, blackmail her to give me a wrench. It worked.
Yeah. Oh goodness. Okay. So Tommy, what was your favorite era in Star Wars? So you know you have the Old Republic, you have the Old Republic, you have the PT era that leads into the Dark Times and the Rebellion era. Then you have the New Republic era that also goes into the New Jedi Order era, and then on to Legacy. So what do you think, where would you say that you like the most in one of those eras? Like which one?
Well, I obviously it would have to be the Old Republic era. Just because you hear a lot more of the stories like that, I found really interesting. Like I was saying about the prequel trilogy when he's talking about Plagueis and all the stories about how the Sith were started, like all that stuff is in the Old Republic era. I find that the most interesting. Even in the Knights, or I keep wanting to say Knights, even in the Old Republic MMORPG, they actually have some stuff where they're talking about back history of the Jedi Knights before they were really Jedi Knights. All that stuff, all that kind of stuff, I've always found fascinating. There's something about like history of things, even if it's fantasy, that I'm enthralled by.
You know what? All that stuff that they reference in the MMO and Knights of the Old Republic, the stuff in the past, it's the Tales of the Jedi comics, which are being released in an omnibus this summer.
Yeah.
And before that, you have the dawn of the Jedi period. With it has a lot to do with what was it? The Rataki, the ones that built the Starforge.
Yeah.
They're heavily featured in those, and that omnibus is already out. So if you want to delve into that stuff, there's it's out.
Yeah. And then Soul Assassin, one of the best parts of Darth Plagueis was when he killed the cult leader in front of her followers and walked away. Yeah, he was. Yeah, I agree. All right, and let's see. Let's move on here. So, what is your favorite EU series, Tommy? If you want to say, and we probably have an idea already. But go ahead.
I mean, as much as I love a lot of that stuff and a lot of the history, even though it's got a lot of problems, I actually would say that the Bounty Hunter Wars was my favorite series, believe it or not.
Okay.
There was a lot of problems with that, especially when you're talking like as far as like stuff being considered canon, because there's a lot of stuff, unfortunately, in that series that doesn't make sense with the canon of George Lucas, especially after he did the prequels where he explained, oh, okay, Jango Fett already had the Slave One, because in the Bounty Hunter Wars, I mean, he's talking about Boba Fett had it made on oh god, I was just thinking of this planet's name too. It was that corporation planet.
Corellia?
No, because the guy's Quat Drive Yards on Quat of Quat. It was the one that did the order for Boba Fett to make essentially became the Slave One. Of course, that makes no sense in the canon of George Lucas the minute he made Jango Fett. But overall, though, that story is the 3 novels is just so amazing and so well done that you could kind of overlook those problems because the writer actually created that stuff before George Lucas even was working on the prequel. So he couldn't have known that George was going to create the character of Jango Fett and have the Slave One there. So,
yeah. And then you can also chalk it to that Boba Fett has had, by the time you get to Legacy of the Force, because Boba Fett's in that series too, and that's 35 years, after Return of the Jedi or so, or a little bit further than that. Boba Fett has remodeled his father's ship so many times, rebuilt it, kind of like how Han did the Millennium Falcon, because of being in battles and stuff like that, and so he's refurbished, remodeled, and stuff like that you can almost chalk it to him just going in and having it repainted and redone and stuff like that, and during that time. I'm just adding that to that, could be something that people can consider, but I get it. That's just like with Heir to the Empire or the Thrawn trilogy, with the time frame, the timeline of when the Clone Wars happened, and then where it happened in the timeline George created. There's a little small discrepancy there as well. That's because George, he didn't create the PT then, so we have those little discrepancies, and that stuff happens, but it's kind of minor, I guess you can say.
Well, I was this was my mindset as far as the Bounty Hunter Wars was considered and everything with Quat Drive Yards. I mean, I think that they could actually keep all that stuff and they could actually put it in canon with George Lucas, because we know at some point Boba Fett actually has multiple slave ships. So if they were to change that and say it's not the Slave One that they built at Quat Drive Yards, it was Slave 2. And just say that he had a whole brand new ship built, then all of a sudden that story could fall back in line with George's vision.
Yeah. A lot of stuff they could have done. A lot of stuff they could have done there, But I like Bounty Hunter Wars as well. I like the fact that because and I'll just go here, compare and contrast real quick, is that, we know that Boba Fett, he was always a loner. Like, even when you get into his later stories and he gets to meet his granddaughter and stuff, he still wants to be a loner. He still wants to be on his own. He's always been that way. He didn't like how the bounty hunters guilds, the way they were going or the direction they were going, and he's the one that basically orchestrated the war to end the bounty hunter, coalition or whatever you want to call it and stuff. So I thought that was very interesting, for all that to happen. And then when you look at what they're doing with his character now, where he wants to be a leader of an organization and he almost sounds like a Talon card other than being a Boba Fett, really doesn't make sense. It doesn't. Not at all.
No, not at all. I mean, he didn't even want to take the title of Mandalorian in the extended universe.
He did not. He took it out of honor of his father Django and out of Justin Morel, and so he took the helm because of that, because of that dedication and that honor, that and that's it. But he had people he went to help him out and help make decisions and all this other stuff, because he really didn't want that position, really, and he did it out of respect.
The reason why they couldn't do that in Disney canon,
why is that?
Is because Dave Filoni ripped off Jango Fett's backstory and gave it to what's his name, Din Djarin.
Yeah,
he just ripped it off a comic and gave it to another character, which means they have to change Boba Fett as a result, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with Wedge, because in the X-Wing comics, you can see Wedge's beginnings. His introduction is identical to Ezra's introduction in Rebels. So that's why he changed Wedge in Rebels into a TIE fighter pilot that defected.
Kind of give him
because you can't have the same backstory for two characters in the same show, right?
Yeah.
So that dumbass just stole something and then didn't think it through.
Yeah, didn't think about how it would affect the story of the character that it sounds familiar to once they brought him in. Yeah. And so now let's go back into, since A New Hope or Star Wars was your very first movie and your favorite in the OT and overall, what did you think about Luke, or who did you really resonate or look up to with those classic characters from Episode 4 or Star Wars?
I would definitely say it had to be Han Solo, because he's a smart ass. That's very much how I am. So we kind of stick with our own when it comes to something like that. He was actually more my personality type. Yeah. It's not that I didn't like Luke. I definitely enjoyed Luke. I liked Ben Kenobi. Even Chewbacca. I thought Chewbacca was interesting. As a matter of fact, my father had dressed me up as Chewbacca one year for Halloween.
That's fun.
he actually, well, they had the costumes out at the time, the little plastic face masks. Yeah. So he got the plastic face mask costume and he just took the face mask off and he actually made me a furry outfit, like a shag carpet outfit. And let me tell you, even in the dead of like, the early winter like that, like, I mean, it's like end of fall, like beginning of winter, like it would get so cold up north. I was sweating to death in this furry thing. It was like walking around with a huge rug over me.
Always suspected you were a furry.
So literally, get this walking carpet out of my way.
Exactly.
Oh my God, I love that. So, oh gosh, I never think about asking who I bring in to interview for talking EU, like, if you ever dressed up for Halloween. So now I have another question to ask. That's amazing. I love that. So Han Solo would be the one that you resonated with, or you related to more so.
Yes.
So, and then with the PT, who would you say?
The PT, I would say my favorite character was probably Obi-Wan. I like the way that they did him. I mean, they gave him the elements like you've seen in the original movie, but they expanded on it in a way that most people probably didn't think it was going to go. So I found him to be the most interesting out of all the characters and probably the most relatable.
Yeah. Yeah, he is, I like his arc in the PT going into the OT and stuff. I really think that he was a well done character between the movies, like the transition through the movies. He's very memorable too as well. And we have Matt Wilkins. In fact, he was live on his channel just as we started. So thank you for stopping by. And I also did Talking EU interview with him as well. So you guys check that video out as well. Yeah, and then let's see here. Another quiz. What's that?
I'm laughing at Soul Assassin.
There it is. Of course, Tommy's a smartass. That guinea pig got me and a crew band from multiple star systems.
I've got the death sentence on 12 systems.
There you go. There you go. So, Stig, do you want to ask him any questions? Do you have anything on your mind that you want to ask him regarding Star Wars? Are you there? Hello? I think we lost the Stig. Oh, yeah, he's muted. I didn't see it there. All right. Another quiz for you. What was Plagueis's talent? Like his main talent that he's known for?
As far as I remember, it was manipulation of midichlorians.
Right. There you go. Woo! Round of applause. Yes. And he was so brilliant with that. And like just reading that and how he would get like species and stuff and do those experiments and try it, and then how they would die on him still and how frustrated he felt. Or
what about the secondary Sith apprentice that Tenebris had originally? He had him there as well, experimenting on him.
Yeah, he had his like a little science, like mad science lab, basically.
Menagerie of Sith projects.
Right. And then I pay attention to Disney Star Wars because I like to do compare and contrast videos, which I haven't done in a while though. And so I was like looking into The Rise of Palpatine, and and all that, and how you had Palpatine come back, and it was kind of like a dark empire homage. I don't know if you would even call it that and stuff like that. But then you had them experimenting and all this other stuff. And it makes me think about like the missed opportunities that Disney had with throwing away the EU, especially when it comes to Plagueis, and his brilliance. And they try to revisit that in a sense, but everything they do, it feels like they failed and the reason why I say that is because the opportunities they had, they threw away. So now they're trying to create other opportunities and then paying homage to the EU and failing at it completely. And so we're not going to, and again, like I respect you so much for saying I'm done with their bullshit. Bringing in Plagueis is not going to be the same Plagueis. And I know that's one of your most favorite characters, right?
Oh,
and
yes.
So, they recreated the Rule of Two where it's not in existence anymore as well, which does away with that between the relationship between him and Plagueis as well.
Here's the thing, though. I actually found an interview with George Lucas where he says, Disney and Kathleen Kennedy had said, that they were going to, use the comics and the novels to make movies.
Yeah,
it was part of that treasure trove thing. I found an interview with George about that, but it seems people don't pick up on this, but the reason they decanonized the EU isn't because they needed full creative freedom. Because if they wanted full creative freedom, why rip off the EU? Because that's not creative. What they're doing is what pretty much everyone's doing. They're remaking it.
Yeah.
Disney canon is just a remake of the EU.
Yeah, so they basically decanonized it so they could have carte blanche to do with anything that they want with all those stories that are now under the Disney banner.
Yeah.
Right.
So it has nothing to do with creativity, because so far all they've done is do copy and paste. I mean, look at Rogue One. Jan Ors. She even has the same outfit almost. You know?
And that's one of those movies right there that I've actually gotten to a few heated discussions with people, and I talked about how much I hate that movie.
Oh, I don't like it either.
Hate it. I even went so far as to say I like Solo more than I like Rogue One, and that's saying a lot.
Oh my God. Well, Stig has an opinion about that. Before we start wrapping up, Stig, and you can also ask him, a question if you have a question for him pertaining to the EU and stuff. But Stig had a point with Solo. Remember about how he's saying if it was a standalone, non-Star Wars or Star Wars standalone without like the Han story in there, how well it would be?
Yeah, if you remove the Star Wars name and give all the characters new names, it's a perfectly okay space heist movie.
Yeah,
because it never felt like Star Wars anyway. And the guy they hired to play Han Solo, I never believed he was Han Solo. Let's put it that way.
mm-hmm.
He was no Harrison Ford.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But weird thing though, it's like Han Solo is supposed to be in the Book of Boba Fett, and that proves that Kathleen Kennedy has no power because she hates Han Solo. Well, then why did she produce the Han Solo movie then?
Yeah, she was the one that called all the shots. And Ron Howard actually said that.
Right.
She made him change the script.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
So she hates Han Solo, but put him in episode 7 and 9 and gave him a Solo movie.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, but brought back Harrison Ford for Indiana Jones.
Yep. Kind of a plot hole.
And in the theories of some of these channels, yeah.
Yeah.
I will say this though: imagine if Disney didn't acquire Star Wars. If Star Wars would have went to a company that would have paid respect to everything that was there, all the EU, all the stuff in the video games, where there's a lot of amazing stuff that's in the video games that was considered part of that expanded universe. If they would have been able to get a company to take that and take this in the direction that it should have went from the beginning, we could have got standalone stories of Darth Bane. We could have got standalone stories of Plagueis. Maybe we might have even gotten a standalone story of Tenebris, because that would have been interesting to see Plagueis' master.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many directions that this could have been taken for the fans.
There is a Tenebris story. It was released in Star Wars Insider. It's a short story.
A short story.
Yeah, but it's included in that Star Wars Insider hardcover thing they released.
Yeah,
that also has some Disney shit in it. But the Tenebris thing is in that one.
Mm-hmm.
I've never read it though, so I just don't know. But
yeah, I don't know all the short stories, but I do, I do know some of them. Like they had a Jaina Solo short story that bridges between Crucible and the Sword of the Jedi that was supposed to come out that they canceled because of the buyout. So they have a nice short story about hers as well. And those short stories are really, really fun. They are. And, so if I could find that Tenebris one for you, I will send it your way.
Awesome. I would like to be able to read that, but I will say this too. I don't care what anybody says. I still enjoyed the Christmas special. I grew up when I was a small kid. I watched it. And I know it wasn't the best of things in the world, but I enjoyed it for what it was. It was like a little extra Star Wars when there was nothing else really going on, and that short cartoon that they had, and I think that was probably what built up the Boba Fett character originally, because up to that point the only thing we knew is that there was a early bird mail away Boba Fett figure that you could get in between Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. So that mini cartoon gave us a little bit more of what Boba Fett was, and then you watch Disney steal from that. And like one of the weapons they showed the Mandalorian was that pitchfork type rifle that Boba Fett has in the old Christmas special. Yeah.
Oh my God, that is amazing. You're the one of the few that I've heard say the holiday special.
That's the guy. That's the one who likes it.
I have a copy of it. My wife actually had to get a hold of somebody over in England. And apparently this guy's father was one of the ones that worked for the studio that shot it over there in England, shot the Christmas special. And he has the old film reels. So what he did is he was taking the old film reels and he was converting them down to DVD. Granted, they're a little bit grainy, they're not high quality just because he's doing it from the old film reels. He doesn't have like a mastering process or anything. But she managed to pick me up the full copy of it.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a sweetie. That's good. I like to hear that. Yeah, we found the 1%.
It's still better than the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
You know, even though the holiday special is terrible, it doesn't fuck up the movies.
Yeah.
It's just a dumb movie, you know.
It's like, what the hell was George on during that time? Like, what was the whole cast on during that time? You know, so
I think I know what Carrie Fisher was on, but
yeah, we don't need to go down that way anyways. But Soul Assassin, see, I told y'all that guinea pig is a troublemaker, just like when we were in Mandalore. All right, so we're going to start winding down here, and thank you so much. I had such a great time with you, Tommy, and thank you, Stig, for popping in and co-hosting as well. So Tommy, any last input you want to share about your love of Star Wars, the EU? Anything else you want to add?
Oh yeah, absolutely. One thing that I will say about the EU, and I think a lot of people miss out on this, is how much extra that the EU used to add to the movies with George Lucas. And one of the small things that I remember is in Empire Strikes Back, there's the one scene where Chewbacca's going into the area where the Ugnaughts are, where they're disassembling droids and everything. And there's an IG-88 that's all whited out like he got smoked. And he's just sitting there against the wall. It's in the EU that we find out that was one of, 4 IG-88s? And the one went to Bespin, and he gets destroyed by an ion blast from Boba Fett right there. You see it. You might have seen it 1,000 times, or you might not have even noticed it. But once I read it in the EU, I'd seen the character, and I never put 2 and 2 together until after I read the EU story about it. And I was like, oh my God, that is an IG-88, and Boba Fett destroyed him. And I found that extremely interesting. There was a lot that was added by way of the EU that a lot of people are missing out on because they figure, oh, well, it's just extra stories that don't make any sense. A lot of it went in line with what Lucas was doing. And I think a lot of people are missing out on all that joy of the extra stories in there and behind the scenes stuff that maybe you're just missing because you don't want to read the EU.
Yeah, and it gives you like it did for you and like many of us, it gives us another perspective of the story because George, they say, oh, well, these back characters really don't count, really. And that's what they'll say. Like, you know, like what's his name? I forget his name. But the commanding officer of the Hoth base, we had debate about him.
General Riken.
There we go. I was like, shit, I can't remember his name now. That people like there was a debate about him being, you know, cut out of the those little galaxy stories that they were doing, cartoon stories that Disney Star Wars was doing and stuff. And they're like, well, he didn't mean anything. You know, he's only a back character. If he's gone, it doesn't, you know, affect anything. And I'm like, are you serious? If he was the
leader,
right? He's a leader of Hoth and stuff, and he had some incredible backstories as well.
Yeah, and the what's it called? The Certain Point of View book, where they have a bunch of short stories that are set in, you know, they tie into the movies basically, and one of them was like the Rebel Alliance is now leaderless since Luke and Leia went to, you know, Bespin. I'm like, what about Mon Mothma and Riken then?
Yeah, right.
You know, they both outranked Luke and Leia, so clearly they're not leaderless. I mean, the Disney writers don't even know the movies, you know?
Right. And so I'm coming to the conclusion here is that George, every single character, whether it's a protagonist, a secondary character, whatever, in George's Star Wars, in his era of Star Wars, they all had meaning. And, you know, and just like when you read about a side character like that is just, you see on the side there and you read about the story and you're like, oh crap, that's what happened. It broadens and opens up the lore even more. So it doesn't just stay narrow in the story. It opens up like, oh man, that IG-88, yeah, that, you know, he got killed by Boba Fett, you know, or like, you know, destroyed by Boba Fett, and so on and so forth. And there's always those little chunks that makes it broader and not as narrow. And that's what I like about Star Wars as well. So Tommy, let us know where we can find you and what you have coming up within the next coming week.
Oh, hey, everybody. If you don't know me by now, look in your fridge and you'll probably see most of the veggies in there. The lettuce and the carrots are already gone. And you can follow the trail of jelly beans that the guinea pigs left all the way back to my channel, where you find me talking about old toys, retro toys being done right, and old movies. Of course, Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern, we have Going Old School Retro Discussions, where we have a panel of people. We get together and talk about those things that we love from the past so much. And on Thursdays, Vinny, Art, and I get together and we talk about retro toys mostly. And once in a while, we'll throw in one of the old toys as a comparison to the new stuff we think is being done right. This is the thing that I like to talk about. I like to talk about the things from the past that I love so much. Yeah, every once in a while, I might throw a little bit of vitriol at these companies that I hate that are doing it wrong, but it's in comparison. It really is in comparison. If you can't love the things from the past, you don't even know what you're fighting for today. So always keep that in mind. Always think about the stuff that you love so much and why do you want to protect it? Why do you want to fight for it? You got to start from that place of love from that franchise.
And good words. And he is following what he's preaching as well. And I really, 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 really respect that as well. And Stig, go ahead and let us know where we can find you. I know you have a stream coming up tonight, so let us know.
Yeah, on Jade Shadows channel tomorrow, in an hour and a half. No, sorry, in 2 hours and a half.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
We're doing our top 10 Christmas movie list. Keep in mind, it's not the top 10 best ones. We're just doing our favorites. So there might be some shit movies in there too, but we just like them anyway.
Yeah.
Die Hard is not a Christmas movie.
Uh-oh.
No comment, but it's not on my list. It's not on my list.
Oh, that's the debate every single year this time. Oh, that was a funny one.
If Die Hard's a Christmas movie, then Lethal Weapon is too. Because that one has kind of a Christmas message as well.
There we go. All right. Thank you guys in the chat for coming in and supporting my channel. I greatly appreciate this. And thank you guys coming for supporting Tom.
Okay.
And what's that, Stig?
EU related.
Okay.
I keep forgetting to say this. On my channel, I uploaded the radio plays of the Dark Forces trilogy.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, the whole damn thing. And also Rebel Mission to Old Mantell. I did that earlier. So, yeah, I have some EU on my channel. I keep forgetting I have it. So there you go. Go listen to that if you want to. Or if you don't want to, then do something else.
Right, there you go. And thank you so much. And yes, I did listen to them. I did read the novellas that I have. And then finally I got to listen to them the other few days ago while I was cleaning around the house. Good time, fun. That is a true Rogue One. And that's where I'll stand with that. And thank you guys again for coming in and supporting Tommy in Talking EU interview. And I had such a great time with you, Tommy. Thank you for stopping in and making time as well. I know as the holidays get closer, we get busier. And so always find time to sit down, relax, and make time for yourself as well. Thank you guys in the chat. And thank you again, Stig and Tommy. And may the force be with you.
Another happy landing.